The Huawei Pura 80 Ultra is known for exceptional camera performance, but not exactly general performance. That said, I've been using it for about a month now, and it feels just as quick as anything else. So today we'll see how it compares to the Galaxy S25 Ultra in this extremely detailed speed test. The Huawei is running a 7nm Kirin 9020 chipset with a max clock speed of 2.5 GHz, while the Samsung is rocking a 3nm Snapdragon 8 Elite CPU, which has two main cores clocked at 4.47 GHz. So on paper, it certainly seems like the Samsung has a massive advantage over the Huawei. But which one of these flagships has what it takes to dominate this speed test? This is TechNick, and without further ado, let's find out. We're going to start things off with boot and biometrics in the first round. So first up, we're booting them up from off to completely on. Samsung did it in just over 13 seconds, Huawei just under 18 seconds. Pretty big difference there, so Samsung gets its first point. Going into the phone for the first time, however, the Huawei picks up its first point. And now we're going to be testing out their fingerprint sensors. The Huawei has a side-mounted fingerprint sensor this year, and the Samsung's still using an under-display ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. But the Huawei won first, second, and third time, picking up its second point over there. Now, they also both use 2D face unlock, so testing that out, the Huawei was the fastest the first time and the second time, so technically already has the win here, and the third time. So Huawei picks up its third point, wrapping up the boot and biometrics section. Now we're going to be making sure that their lux meter readings are the same on both in terms of brightness levels, so that we can test out battery drain at the end of this test. So right now we're sitting at 63% on the Huawei and 65% on the Samsung. We'll compare this at the end to see how they drain in terms of milliamp hour per minute drain. And we'll also be testing out their temperatures now and comparing this at the end as well. Now we're going to be jumping into the speed test portion of this video, starting with the stopwatch. So the Samsung picked up its first point going into the stopwatch app, but it was too close to call when actually running the stopwatch, so no point was allocated. Jumping into calculator now, it was way too close to call. Different animations, but they still ended off with the same result, if that makes sense. And the same thing goes with getting the calculation within the calculator app as well. Now we're going to be jumping into the camera app over here, and the first four apps are all just first-party apps, if that makes sense. They're all system apps. We'll get to third-party apps later, and that will be a bit different. The Huawei picks up its first point opening up the camera, second point flipping over the selfie camera quicker as well, but taking the photo over here, it seems like it was neck and neck there, and they both saved it to gallery at the same time, the bottom left corner over there, so no point was allocated. They just have different transitions, different animations, but they still got to the same points at the same time. Now jumping into gallery, it was too close to call, once again different transitions, and going into the photo that we just took within gallery, once again, neck and neck there. Now we're going to be jumping into third-party apps. They seem identical when it comes to first-party apps, but that's kind of expected because of optimizations. Going into Photoshop Express over here, the Samsung picked up its second point, and going into the actual photo here, it's going to be the Samsung as well, picking up its third point. Now we're going to export these photos to gallery, and what we're going to do is we're going to be checking at the bottom of the screens over here to see which one saves it quicker. It is indeed the Samsung over here, picking up its fourth speed test score points this time. Now we have replaced Adobe Rush because it's actually ending, its life is ending now, and we're replacing it with CapCut, which is probably the most popular video editing app on mobile devices. The Huawei actually picked up its third point over there going into the app, and the Samsung opened up the project quicker, picking up its fifth point. Now we're going to take these 4K videos and we're going to compress them and export them in CapCut. The Samsung is way quick over here, 2.45 seconds. They both have UFS 4.0 storage, but as opposed to the Huawei's 6.42 seconds, the Samsung was twice as quick there, picking up its sixth speed test point. Now we're jumping into Spotify, Samsung picks up its seventh point, and we're gonna jump into the song that's playing at the bottom over there. And the Samsung actually loads it a little bit quicker, so it picks up its 8 points over there. Now we're going to be jumping into our next app, that being Google Chrome, and the Samsung should get an easy win here since Huawei doesn't natively support Google services, but it does still work, and yes, the Samsung did pick up its points over there, getting it its 9th point now, triple the score as opposed to the Huawei, but searching for me on Google Chrome here was way too close to call, so no point was allocated that time round. Now we're going to be opening up our first social media app, that being Facebook. Then we're going to do Instagram, X, TikTok, so on and so forth. Get to some video streaming apps. Samsung picked up its 10th point, opening up Facebook. Well, kind of loading everything a little bit quick over there. Now jumping into my Facebook profile. It was close, but the Samsung was a hair quicker, picking up its 11th point. So obviously the Samsung is dominating. We were expecting this. What I wasn't expecting though is how close it was how close it is between these two phones. I mean, when the Huawei opens it up slow, it's not much slower, and the Samsung is running a much better chipset in its phone. Huawei picked up its 4th point there, by the way, opening up Instagram quicker, but the Samsung went to my profile quicker. And jumping into X now, it was way too close to call. A lot of things happening when you open up X, so it's really hard to judge that one. And then jumping into my profile, the Huawei picks up its 5th point on X. Now, there's only a 7-point gap. I was expecting a larger gap between the Samsung and Huawei over here, especially because the Huawei is running pretty old software. I mean, EMUI 15 is new, but it's based on Android 12. And the Samsung picked up its 13th point going into TikTok, and its 14th point going into my profile in TikTok as well. So now a 9-point lead of the Samsung. Like I was saying earlier, I was expecting the Samsung to do wonders here, but it's very close here. Huawei just picked up its 6th point going into YouTube. Actually, weirdly enough, quicker than that of the Samsung. And jumping into my YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have yet to do so. The Huawei picks up its 7th point going into my channel quicker. The Huawei was quicker on YouTube, but the Samsung is still double the points in terms of the speed test portion of this test. Now going into Netflix, the Huawei was a lot quicker, picking up its 8th point. And jumping into a profile over here, it was very identical, way too close to call. So we're done with our video streaming apps now as well. We're going to jump into 2 benchmarks. We're going to run them as well. They're not the longest benchmarks. Geekbench is about 5 minutes though. The Samsung picks up its 15th point, opening up Geekbench 6 quicker than that of the Huawei. Now the one thing you need to remember about the Huawei is, yes, it has a lower main clock speed and it doesn't have 2 main cores, but it does benefit from hyper-threading. So its main cores and its performance cores are actually double that. So it should have a little bit of an advantage there, but the Samsung absolutely destroyed the Huawei when it comes to Geekbench score and speed, picking up its 16th points over there, which was very impressive. Now opening up 3D Mark, the Samsung was a little bit quick over there, picking up its 17th point. Now we're going to run Wildlife Extreme, which renders at 4K on both devices. Now we're not going to be focusing on score here, just about which one finishes running this benchmark test the quickest, and it was the Huawei, so it picked up the point. Now the Samsung was way better in terms of score, but this is a speed test. We're focusing just on speed, and the Huawei wasn't much quicker at running through the test, but it was a little bit quicker, so I gave it the point there. Now jumping into Subway Surfers, the Huawei actually opened it up quicker, getting it its 10th point, but starting the game, it was too close to call over there. So the Huawei is now on 10 points, double-digit points. Samsung's on 17 points. Samsung still has the one here, but this test is far from done. Jumping into Asphalt Legends now, which one is going to take the win here? It is the Huawei, not much quicker, 16 seconds as opposed to 16.1 seconds on the Samsung, and actually going into the game within Asphalt, the Huawei picks up its 12th point. It actually opened the game quicker, a very demanding game by the way, and went into racing a little bit faster than that of the Samsung as well, with a significantly worse chipset on paper and older software too. But I guess animations are pretty key. Now going into Call of Duty Mobile, this time it's the Samsung, 27.45 seconds, 2 seconds slower on the Huawei with 29.24 seconds. And going into the practice range within Call of Duty Mobile, the Samsung was quite a bit quicker, but again, not enough to justify. I guess the Samsung will perform better when it comes to gaming in terms of sustained performance, but when I've just played regular games on the daily, I don't really notice a difference between the two at all. I guess if you play for a while, you will. Samsung also went into practice range quicker over there, but the Huawei picked up its 13th point going into Free Fire quicker, almost 2 seconds quicker than that of the Samsung. And going into the training mode within Free Fire, the Huawei picked up its 14th point. Wrapping up the speed test portion of this video, the Huawei was only 5 points behind that of the Samsung. I was seriously expecting more here. Like I genuinely did not expect the Huawei to get so close to the Samsung, but when either of them did lose a battle over there, it wasn't really by much. And now in the RAM portion of this video, we're not checking out speed here. We're just testing out which ones kept those apps running in the background. So far, all the games were kept open on all the phones, on both phones over here. Samsung seems to reopen them but still get to the same screen, so no point was allocated. But with Netflix, the Huawei snagged a point because it kept it open. Samsung killed it. Same with YouTube over here, getting it its 2nd point. Going into TikTok, it's the same. X was the same. Samsung did something weird over there. Both of them killed Instagram, Facebook. Both of them went back to the home page. Google, they both kept it open. Spotify, they both kind of killed it. CapCut, they both kept it open. Photoshop, Huawei picks up its 3rd point. Gallery, Huawei picked up its 4th point, and now it's a bit weird that Samsung killed some apps, considering I went into each individual app and made sure to set all the apps in this test as unrestricted to run in the background, also disabled adaptive battery, and I excluded all of these apps in device care and the memory portion where you see excluded apps. And then we get to battery, and the Huawei dropped by 5% as opposed to the Samsung 7%. Granted, the Huawei has a larger battery, but its milliamp hour per minute reading was 13.61 as opposed to the Samsung's 18.42. And then testing out temperature at the end, there wasn't a huge difference between the two, but the Huawei gained the least at 13 degrees Celsius as opposed to the Samsung gaining almost 14 degrees Celsius. Optimizations really do play a big role in modern smartphones these days. But still, it's really surprising to see that the Huawei had more total score points than the Samsung with 21 points as opposed to 20 points. And it kept almost all of its apps running in the background, so it got more score in terms of the RAM section of this test. But the Samsung, again, quicker in speed. But I guess it kind of depends on what you're going for here. At the end of the day, they're both really quick on the daily. I've been using the Huawei, like I said at the start of this, for about a month now, and I haven't noticed it feel any slower than any other flagship of this year so far. So I guess Huawei are still in the game. Let me know your thoughts of these results and which phone you would rather get, or maybe which phone you have and why you bought it in the first place. As always, this is TechNick, and I'll catch you in the next one.